Hi, soul friends. It's Tannaz Hosseinpour, and welcome back to another episode of the Minutes on Growth podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with us. She is an intuitive astrologer, a spiritual path healer. Welcome, Mary Jo Cranmore.
Hi, how are you, Tanaz? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I'm super excited, especially since you told me that March, April, and May are really significant months this year in terms of astrology. Can we dive right into it, please?
Yes, we can dive right into it. And we're recording this nearly in March, and one of the things that jumps out at me is the beginning of eclipse season is happening by the end of March. And the earlier in March, we do have something going on that's very, very significant with Mars in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. So that's a lot of words, and maybe people don't understand what I'm saying. So I'll explain to you what I'm saying. Um, the energy of Mars is about taking action, taking bold action for ourselves, right? And in terms of the collective, it is a war footing. Okay, Mars is the god of war. So this is very significant. We are moving into March, into Aries time, the beginning of the zodiacal year. And with Mars and Aquarius, Mars gets along with Aquarius as long as we're thinking toward the future. Aquarius is like, I'm all good, but you can't be fighting wars from like years ago.
Mhm.
So need to be thinking toward the future. Personally, you can layer that on in your own lifetime of like, I can't be fighting this battle I've been fighting for years. Okay. I just can't
Right.
be, I got to be done with this. Aquarius pushes us toward the future. It is squaring, meaning it is in conflict with. So Mars in conflict is significant. And the square means it's like how they're talking to each other is a little angry, a little angry.
Okay.
Okay. So Mars is talking to Uranus, and Uranus rules Aquarius, which is about the future. But Uranus is like, do it now. Boom, like lightning.
Mhm.
But Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is like, whoa, everybody chill. I don't have my boots on, and we're going for a walk in this crazy place that I don't know where we're going. Um, so Taurus is like, let's just slow this down a little bit. But the truth is that Mars and Uranus are like, that's so charming and sweet that you think that, but we're not going to slow this down. So March 9th, there is going to be some kind of battle over what you really value, what is important to you. And because Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Taurus is about what we value and what we think is important, how we put what you spend your money on is what you value in many
Mhm.
ways in our culture. So your job is you may have this sense of like, okay, I'm not going to sink more money into this house. I'm going to, do van life. Okay. I'm going to, put solar on my house. I'm going to turn it into an Airbnb because Taurus is about like our surroundings and where we live too. So there can
Mhm.
be those kinds of changes. And collectively, globally, this can be an actual event that's going to be happening that is like uprooting our sense of security in some way because we need to change for the future.
Right.
So there can be that happening. Later on in March, Mars is still in Aquarius, and then it's trining with Eris in Aries, which is the female god of war. So Mars is the
Mhm.
male god of war, Eris is the female god of war, but it's sextiling. So it's like kind of a nicer conversation about like, all right, what hill do you want to die on? Is this
Mhm.
really important to you, or is this not important to you? So pay attention to that. This is really about what we choose in terms of how we're looking to our futures. So a lot of future focus now. We're really moving forward in ascension, forward, much faster than, it's almost like 2012 to now. This is going to be, galactic speed. Um, March 17th, we have the sun conjunct Neptune and Pisces, a little spiritual peace for a minute. And then later in March, we're going to have a full moon lunar eclipse.
Mhm.
And that is in Libra. Okay. And So what happens then is the moon is in Libra, it's a full moon in Libra, 5 degrees Libra. It's directly opposite the sun in 5 degrees Aries. That's what a full moon is. It's like the sun is reflecting fully on the moon. And so you can see what you want. You can see a lot of things. You can release a lot of things. But an eclipse means the earth gets in the way. Again, Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Do we hold on to things too long? And are we not seeing truly what we need to release, especially as it relates to relationships? What are
Wow.
the patterns that we need to release? And so that's March. And, moving into April and May, I will say to you that there is a Uranian energy in April that is going to be very loud, that is going to be another kind of like lightning strike. And in May, I'm not going into too much detail because I've given you a little bit of setup here. I think that when we get to April and May is going to be very important because of Jupiter. And Jupiter is moving through Taurus right now. We've had Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year, moving into Gemini May 25th.
Mm-hmm.
And it will then go retrograde later in the year and all of that. But the significance of that is Jupiter is about expansion. Jupiter is
Mm-hmm.
about good luck and good fortune and all of those things we hear about. But I think Taurus, sitting in Taurus, Taurus is saying, well, have you done the work? Have you planted the seeds? Have you done the setup for what you need to do to reap the benefits of that? Because when Jupiter moves into Gemini, you're going to have to walk your talk about something.
Mm-hmm.
So like, okay, are you doing the Boston Marathon? Fine. But like, have you trained? Have you done that? Because that's real. And this is like, it's a manifesting energy that I think is really critical for everybody to understand. Because if you want to like kind of grab onto Jupiter, right? Jupiter, that the biggest planet in, like this big gaseous planet, if you want to really grab onto this, kind of good luck. We have to recognize, and I think more and more people are recognizing in the manifestation community, that it requires one step in front of the other,
Right.
that good luck comes to those who are prepared for it.
Yes.
You could get offered the CEO of some company that you love tomorrow, but like, am I ready to take that on? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really luck. That's not really good luck. That's not really any kind of luck at all. It's kind of like, that's weird. But
Right.
if I was like doing all the work and I had all of the skills and drive and vision that I needed to, then that would be luck, right? Sitting
Right.
next to some woman on a plane and there we go. I've got a new job. Um, so these kinds of things, I will say that that Jupiter retrograde later on in the year and Mars retrograde later on in the year are going to kind of force us to be honest with ourselves. Have we done the work? Have we planted the seeds that we need? And I do think this year there's going to be a little bit of energy around getting back to the earth, really recognizing Gaia as having her own journey, and how are we kind of working with that? Maybe not very well, so maybe
Right.
we need to work on that.
Right. So this month and the next month, so March and April, really the energy is letting go, releasing, and ultimately planting the seeds for May, for that strong manifestation energy, and making sure that we're prepared for our desires and we've done the inner work for those desires.
Yes, because the truth, you're exactly right. The truth is that we have to become the person that we're manifesting
Right.
before the circumstances show up in our lives that support that. We have to actually change who we're becoming.
Right.
And so if you're looking through the lens of victim mentality, if any of these big, I skipped through, there's a lot going on. There's a lot more to talk about at some point. But if we skip through the energies and don't use the energies to our benefit, and we're looking through the lens of either victim mentality, like life is just coming at me. I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm just feeling like everybody else is awful. And I don't know. I don't know why this is happening. Like, that's a very unconscious way to move through life, instead
Right.
of saying, cool, all right, I got this. This is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Looking at it from a Uranian or an
Mm-hmm.
Aquarian standpoint, which I can do it easily. I'm Venus and Aquarius. So I can see it. I can
Bigger
pull
picture.
myself out of emotion, right? And into more vision of what's going on, see the lay of the land, get yourself out of the emotion of it, because especially for light workers and those of us who are empaths, like you can't swallow the poison. You have
Right.
to transmute it. You have to work, be a warrior for that, transmuting of the energy, but don't swallow it, because then
Right.
you're going to be debilitated and you're in that other kind of energy, and we don't need you there. We need you in the place of, manifesting our future, Age of Aquarius.
Right. So shifting from life is happening to me to life is happening for me, right? My
Absolutely.
highest good.
Absolutely. And that's just a much more powerful place to be.
Right. Right. Super, super, super informative. Thank you for sharing all of that. Question. So we're going through all of this, and sometimes, you know, some things happen, and I always go to a calendar. I'm like, is it a full moon? Am I feeling the way I'm feeling because of the full moon? And it is. And I'm
Right.
like, yes,
Right.
it's not me. But during
Right.
those moments of confusion, for me, I mean, this is my experience. Sometimes it's hard for me to connect with my intuition when there's this
Mm,
frantic energy around me. So I was wondering if you could dive a little bit into like how we can build a stronger relationship and connection with our intuition, especially
mm.
during periods where, all of these things are happening astrologically speaking.
Well, I will say to you, and I say this on my channel all the time, you cannot learn to ride a bicycle in a hurricane.
Mhm.
So your job is not to wait until everything is swirling around you. Your job is when you're feeling good, everything's peaceful, no sweat, doing fine. That's when you need to um, anchor yourself and do your intuitive work. And I am spending a lot of time with my Pathfinder group on that this year. 2024 for me is about intuition, because
Mhm.
I do feel the more we move into the age of Aquarius, the less um, uh, those who are not as connected with their intuition or are much more of the mind will
Mhm.
be easily fooled.
Mm.
Will be easily fooled. Like, think about AI. Like, you can see, beautiful pictures and all kinds of stuff that is not real, right? There's a
Right.
lot of things that are, posted around the internet, even on my feed and stuff like that, because I don't go very deep into any dark places in the internet. I really am, I stay away from anything like that, but it still finds its way to your feed. And you just have to be able to feel the frequency. Human is a frequency.
Mhm.
Humanity is a frequency, and AI is devoid of that frequency. It's
Right.
too um removed from human mishigas, mess, right? It's too removed from that. It's too perfect. There's not enough messiness that's inserted into the AI programming. Don't give them any ideas, but there's like not enough messiness in there for it to be close to a human frequency. And then
Mhm.
also, human frequency has a God frequency to it, which AI
Right.
does not have.
Right.
So we have Saturn in Pisces right now. And I will say right this minute, Saturn in Pisces, stellium in Pisces, with Mercury and the sun and Neptune, which is happy in Pisces. Saturn is not super happy in Pisces, but Saturn is always about our lessons. So let's use the energy of Saturn, which is Capricorn, which is about anchoring something, to anchor a spiritual practice for ourselves.
Mhm.
Whatever that is for you. I mean, I wake up around 5 or 5:30. I don't get out of bed till like 8:30. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like this, you know, I don't want to hit the ground as soon as I open my eyes. I never want to set an alarm again. But I wake up for it because I'm like, all right, this is when I do my reading for myself. This is when I do my meditation. I have a little fireplace thing in my bedroom that it's just like the cozy feeling that I want. I created that place for myself. And even if you live with a lot of other people, you can still create something for yourself. Um, you're going to need to anchor yourself in the moment. You're going to need to protect yourself. And then I just want you to ask, what do I need to know today? Let's not go
Mhm.
too big here. What do I need to know today? What would be important for me to know today? And if you have a specific thing that's on your mind about a person or about a interview or about a meeting or something, just ask about that. What's important for me to know about that today? And then just listen. Just breathe and listen. And nothing may show up. And you might have a feeling of peace or a feeling of just awareness of being in the moment. The way we can tell the difference between intuition and fear is that intuition is expansive, it brings clarity. Fear constricts, it brings confusion. That's how
Mm.
you know. If you're self-doubting, if you're all this kind of stuff about it, that's fear. So even legitimately, after you have an intuitive hit and you go right into, oh my God, was that intuition? Oh my God, you know, then you're moving into the energy of fear. So you've sort of lost the frequency.
Right.
And all I need you to do is remember what it feels like. As I'm sitting here with you, I'm having like chills on my legs. I feel a thump in my chest when I say something that's right on. Like these are my signals.
Mhm.
These are my signals. And everybody has their own. And everybody can do it. And it's not special. Everybody that's human is plugged into this vast connection with the divine. You have the divine within you. You don't have to be some kind of special woo-woo master to do it.
That's so empowering to hear. So we're connected with the divine, we're connected with the universe, we're part of the universe. And when we're praying to this connection that we have with the creator, with the source, which we are part of. What about spirit guides? What are
Mm.
spirit guides? How do we seek their assistance in this process? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you do have, everybody has, this is what I have learned just in my own experience, but also I have a lot of folks in my Pathfinder group and on my channel that tell me all the time. So I hear everything that they're saying about their own experiences with guides. So it's been kind of fascinating to just like do this like completely not scientific study
Right.
about spirit guides. But my own awareness of them is I have been connected with my high self and my guides since I was little. I
Mhm.
spoke to my grandmother after she passed away. Little kids sometimes have these kinds of things go on with them. It kind of gets drummed out because parents are like, what's going on here? But I'm an adopted kid, so I come from like a different tribe
Mhm.
altogether, plunked down in this place that was for my spiritual growth. I have
Right.
no doubt in my mind that this was exactly the right place for my spiritual growth. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be where I am today with you sitting here. Um, but I remember when I was having my father passed away when I was in high school, a lot of really tough things happened before I even turned 18. And I remember just going to a garden seat in my mind, like a place in a garden. And it probably came from my Aunt Ursula. I had a lot of aunties growing up, my mother's friends. My mother was older in her 50s and 60s when I was growing up. So she had these amazing auntie friends. And Aunt Ursula was a photographer for Life and Look magazine during World War II. And she was like a world famous gardener. And she would photograph the kids in the neighborhood and also her flowers for the local magazines and newspapers and everything. So she was wicked cool. And her sister was an opera singer, met Stalin and all this kind of stuff. And so every time I would want some kind of peace, I remember being in her garden, and
Mhm.
she had like a little garden seat. And so when I was working with my guide, my own high self, right? And I was like, okay, I know there's another energy here, but I don't really know what it is. And I just assume it's one of the aunties, or I assume it's, whatever. And so I'm like, I'm going to find out. You kind of have to be a little investigatory to find out who your guides are. And many, many years after I learned their names, of uh, it's like completely gone. They're completely gone from me right now. I almost feel like I'm having a change of guides. But Isaac and uh I want to say Isold. I feel like Isold is coming in now. There's a different guide coming in right now now exactly when I'm saying this to you. Isabel, Isaac and Isabel have always been my guides, but then there's this Isold or something. Most people's first guides start with the letter I because it's I. There's a part
Right.
of you in this, right? So there's some kind of thing like that. Really, it just felt like it was like dissipating from me, and then they came back. So when I was meditating in my own sort of connected to my high self, I was like, I want to know who these guides are. And so I went to that garden seat, and Isabel came and sat. She had a big floppy hat on. She came and sat next to me, and she was like, "What do you want to know?" And I was like, "I'd like to know your name." And she said, "Isabel." She's just this sweet lady, like in her 80s, right? And then Isaac was like the ghost of Christmas present, like big and bawdy and says 4-letter words all the time and is like, like this like amazingly funny, dry wit, and just incredibly amazing, like totally, you know, um, pushing me to do things all the time, pushing me to do things. Whereas Isabel, someone who's feels very nurturing, kind of like, fairy godmother kind of feeling. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then I started doing meditations for my group. And I have a meditation where it's a bonfire meditation where you come into the circle and you're standing and you're looking at the fire. Cause I do a lot of fire watching in terms of my meditation because
Right.
my mind is too active sometimes. And so fire watching works for me. And you stand and feel the heat on your face, and then you look to your left and look to your right, and those are guides for you. And then there's like a holding of the hands and like a coming together so that you can work together. You can have guides for many different things in your life. If you want a guide that will help you on your twin flame journey, okay. If you want a guide to get you through organic chemistry, fine, right? Like you can do specific things like that. We all have, protected guides. I have a lot of protecting guides, a lot more, I think, than most people walking this path with me. I felt protection and wrapped in bubble wrap, and sometimes in some places when I should have been really in trouble. Um, you all have two main guides that are Isaac and Isabel ish. And those are the ones who will answer questions for you. You could see them in your mind's eye, right? It's your mind's eye, your mind's ears. I'm clairaudient,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I hear things, but
Yeah.
it's not like these ears. It's right, it's internal. And then there are the ascended masters, Kuan Yin and Jesus and Buddha, like that. Or you could just reach out to someone who's passed over, a grandmother that loves you, um, someone who you actually knew in this life, or someone who you feel aligned with, Martin Luther King Jr., whoever, right? Like Mary Magdalene, I feel very close to Mary Magdalene. So you can then make that a prayer. You can come to your place that you have created and you can ask them for help.
Right.
And that's perfectly reasonable. It's not like you have to be somebody on a mountain to talk to Mary Magdalene or talk to Jesus even. You can do it.
Right. Right. I have that connection with Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he's always my go-to
Mm-hmm.
person to ask questions. And I'm
Yep.
just always amazed how I always get the answers, and I feel so protected by him. So just
Mm-hmm.
hearing you say that was really reassuring for
Mm.
me, and I'm sure for many who are listening to this right now. You said something, and I have to dive deep in it. I wasn't planning on, but
Oh God,
it
what?
just came out.
What?
Twin flame connection. What
Okay.
what is your take on it? What does it represent for you?
For me, it's about becoming your higher self. And you are becoming your higher self. Your higher self is your masculine and feminine energy in union.
Hmm.
And I have had the misfortune or the fortune to come into contact with quite a number of karmic souls but their job was to kickstart my spiritual journey. That was their
Mhm.
job. They were catalyst energies. And twin flame in and of itself, I think when you finally get to the point when you recognize that it's really about a coming home to you, that's when it works. It's no better or worse than a regular soulmate energy or anything like that. I don't like any elitism around it, because I just think that um we give too much credence to people who have a certain type of journey, and they do talk about, oh, there's 144,000 of them on the planet at any given time and everything. I think that's misunderstood.
Mhm.
um what I understand that to mean, the 144, it's in the Bible. There's other places where 144 is a number that's meaningful, and it is about a tipping point. It is about a tipping point of energetic um transmutation. No, that's not a word. Energetic connection that is pure love,
Right.
that is pure love, and that is at a high frequency. And, you know, to me, if that is twin flame energy, then I'm all about it. I think that's exactly right. And I have experienced that. And I feel much more relieved that it's not as much about a love romantic thing that a lot of people make it out to be. But I do think this is what my when I first came into contact with the concept, immediately what my intuition was, oh, this is God's bait. And I
Mm.
was like, what does that mean? And it's like, got to get your attention somehow. So it's going to be through something that is like this amazing experience that everybody wants to have. And like, we've got to get you interested in doing a journey, a spiritual journey that is going to be challenging. But ultimately, I need you to ascend in a way that is focus on your own healing, focus on your own integration, focus on these things. And there is a human being, there is another person with your soul frequency. Not everybody does have this journey. And so that becomes an elitist kind of thing. But in reality, if you're on a spiritual path, you are doing some version of what I'm talking about.
Right.
You are doing some version of, okay, I'm seeing those wounds that I need to heal. A lot of the twin flame readings I have done have centered around a mission and purpose about upending some really messed up relationship patterns that we have. I don't think anybody is arguing with me about that. That
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that we do that are very hurtful to ourselves. We abandon ourselves all the time. We deal with toxic partnerships all the time. We stay in things too long. There's just a lot of things to work out. We've got to work it out. And I think that's why there's like this time compressed, moving into the age of Aquarius, let's get cracking. Like, you can't wait anymore. You've got to
Yeah.
do the healing work.
Yeah. As you were speaking, one of Ram Dass's sentences popped up in my head of we are all just walking each other home. And
Yes,
the importance of doing that right now in this age of Aquarius. We can't overlook
absolutely.
that
And what
anymore.
the Rumi quote about the wound, it's the wound is where the light
Light
comes into you,
enters.
or
Yeah.
the light enters. Yeah, that quote to me is very important, because you know most people just want to hear, and that's where I get to talk about intuition. Most people just want to hear that everything's going to be the way you want it to be, or everything's going to be all right, or everything, right? I mean, I think we're all human. We want to hear that
Yeah.
everything is good. And so the idea that you would go through healing is the only way that a lot of people will do this healing is if they think, or if they believe, or if they're connected to an energy that is about love. And ultimately it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
It's exactly about that. But how it enters into your life, it may come from something that feels like love but really isn't, from like a karmic energy. Most people that I talk to on my channel have been through a very toxic plutonic karmic experience that they think is a twin flame or they thought was a twin flame.
Right. So what are karmic souls? I know we're going over time, but this discussion is just
That's
so
okay.
interesting.
Okay, I'm glad to do it. Karmic souls are people who are really drawn to your wounds. They're drawn to your wounds. And so the feel with a twin flame is a different vibe. It's a baseline of love.
Mhm.
Even though you're being, sort of pushed and made to heal and do all this stuff, a karmic soul is drawn to those wounds for their own benefit. And so it's really not about love. And there's this explosion of discussion about narcissism on this planet,
Yeah,
especially in the United States. And I mean, the fact is we all have narcissistic tendencies at certain
right.
times. You wouldn't get out of bed if you didn't have an ego. So
Yeah,
forget about being egoless. Like that's just not, it's not really a thing.
right.
It's not really a thing. You know, Buddha, Jesus, exceptions, but when we're working with this, when you come across, I've had 5 or 6 karmics that showed up in rapid succession. Because what will happen is if you just dump them, right? You just go, okay, this feels amazing. I have a deep connection with them. Um, and then there's just these crushing kinds of soul lessons that come in that are really important for you to do. It's like, thank you, that was our soul contract. Usually a karmic, once they deliver the lesson and you have received it, they will disappear. Now, receiving a lesson is awareness, but you have more work to do. You have to integrate that into your
Right.
life. So you can be like, yep, that person's a narcissist. I can see how this works with my family of origin and my father was this and all of that. But if you don't incorporate that, like
Mhm.
I have a friend who says they have a bad picker. And I'm like, no, you're just not integrating the lesson. You're
Right.
just not, the next time someone shows up, you are still in that. You still want to have that validation from that person, and you're not really truly healing that. And so that it's just going to show up again and again and again in different meat suits, okay,
Right.
in different forms. So, that's what's known as trickster energy. That, or in the tarot tower cards, right? It's like,
Mhm.
no, 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 I don't want to see the truth about this. No, no, no. And I keep doing the same thing over and over again. And, spirit's like, cool, gotcha. Boom, right? And then you get like forced into seeing the lesson in stark relief. And then it's like, still up to you. Do you want to really learn it? Do you want to never, do you want to? I can see a narcissist at 20 paces and shoot the apple off their head now. It's like, that's, like, oh yeah, I got you. I got you. And the good news about intuition is that as we, keep evolving and keep moving forward, um, we'll see everything.
Yeah.
We'll see everything. No one's going to be able to hide. You won't be able to hide
Right.
anymore.
But I loved what you said of like, the lesson will come to us, and every karmic experience gives us a lesson, but ultimately it's
Oh
our
yeah.
free will. It's like our choice, whether I'm going to integrate
Yes.
that or I'm going to repeat the pattern. And, sometimes
100%.
we end up repeating the pattern until we get to a point where we can no longer tolerate repeating the pattern. And that's when we
Completely
see the,
correct.
yeah.
And most of the time it's because we're just like, we're too tired, we're too broke, we're
Hmm.
too broken, we're sick,
Yeah.
we're doing all kinds of unhealthy addictions. This
Right.
shows up in the 12th house in people's astrology too. That 12th house is a big place of like either sticking your head in the sand or running towards addictions to not see the truth
Hmm.
and to not see what the truth is. But that's another reason I like Jupiter, because Jupiter is all about the truth.
Wow.
And Jupiter is forcing us with this Gemini, when it's moving into Gemini, for us to not only be able to see the truth, but then communicate it. Gemini, right?
Hmm.
Walk your talk.
Mm.
So I'm a
As
Sag. That's why I love Jupiter.
as you were speaking, last question, you mentioned tarot cards.
Mhm.
What's your stance on tarot cards and how do we integrate them into understanding the lessons, into integrating the lessons? Like how can it help us on this journey?
So tarot for me, I've been reading tarot for 30 years, and it is about archetypes, right? Tarot is about archetypes. It's about experiences that we all share:
Mm,
death, birth, marriage, um, failure, success, any kind of thing, any kind of human experience is found in that tarot deck. And the major arcana energies are about big lessons, that may be over years of time. If a lot of them show up in a reading, this is a big deal. This is really important to pay attention to. Minor arcana, like the Three of Pentacles and the Two of Swords and stuff like that, process, like stuff
mhm.
that we do every day, like everyday energy. And the court cards can be other people. And so what I have seen known to be true for all this time of reading, I've done thousands of readings, personal readings, and then on YouTube thousands of readings. And it's shocking to me that we're being told our own stories through these cards. And so you're able to use them very beneficially to yourself if you think of them as an empowerment tool,
Mhm.
not even as a tool of divination of this is what's going to happen, because you have free will.
Right.
You can read that reading, you can watch one of my readings and go, okay, no, I'm going to decide not to do that. Well, isn't that still empowering if you decide not to do something? You know what I mean? So, um, for me, the energy of reading a tarot reading, I could lay down a tarot spread and I could read it, and someone could see something different, and another person could see something different. It's all in the question you're asking, because what you're looking at is you're looking at a system of archetypal energies, and you're experiencing that through your own lens of your own upbringing. I was raised in the United States, first world problems, things like that. I was raised Catholic. This is sort of how I look at the world, my experiences with marriage, my experiences with money, and all of that. And so the people who are drawn to the readings with me are the ones who I believe have similar experiences
Mhm.
or are seeking answers to similar questions.
Mhm.
And tarot is something that I feel is an empowering tool rather than a divination tool, right? It's not just about what's going to happen, it's about what are the energies right now. And
Mhm.
so I'm asking, and when I shuffle, I know when to stop. I know I'm going to lay it out in a spread. You don't just throw cards out.
Mhm.
Don't just throw cards out, because then you're going to be like more confused. If you have a spread and you have a specific question, like every morning I ask, what do I need to know about today? What will empower me today? And I lay out the spread, and then you can see things based on the spread where the cards are. Oh wow, this was something that's showing up pretty soon. The energy is like already in the field, right? It's already here. If you're looking for your soulmate, they're walking around on this planet. Okay, they've been born, they're here somewhere, right? So we're tapping into that universal unconscious. If you ever read Carl Jung or anything like that, we're tapping into the universal unconscious, and it's being brought down through these cards. And I feel like people are the conduit for that, not the cards themselves. It's us. It's
Right.
us.
Right. So just to clarify, when we're getting a reading, is it important that we choose people who have similar worldviews as us, or are we naturally just drawn to people who have similar worldviews as us?
You're just going to be drawn to the right person. I
Mhm.
firmly believe that, because I watch a lot of tarot readers on YouTube, and I've had a lot of tarot readings for myself. And I feel like you just get drawn to the right person. I don't think you have to go and research their bio or anything like that. I just feel like there's something about the title, there's something about the energy of this person. There's definitely people that I'm like, oh no, not that they're bad people. It's just that they're not for me. Like
The
it's
energy
it's
isn't
an
a
old
match.
story.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just not a match, right? And not good, not bad, whatever. It's just not a match. And but interestingly enough, I recently have been called to a couple of readings for cancer, for the sign of cancer, and I literally have no planets in the sign of cancer in my chart. Cancer's there, but it's kind of stuck in a house between two other signs. It's called intercepted. It's
Hmm.
hard to get at that energy. And I'm like, why am I interested in these cancer readings? Like, I have no, and I would listen to them. I'm like, oh my God, that's for me. And we have everything in us. And so
Yes.
it's about your journey. You're going through every single sign, you're going through every single house, every single piece of it is you.
Hmm.
So
So powerful.
people can say, like, I don't have any earth, right? I don't have any earth. That's not true. It's just not as loud as your fire. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's kind of a something to do, is to balance those two things. Then bring more earth in, like
Hmm.
feng shui. Like, if you don't have enough earth, you need to bring it in.
Right. Right.
So kind of similar.
Wow. Wow. We discussed so much today. I loved
Everything.
all our questions and all your
Everything.
answers. Um, Last question. How can people get in touch
Okay.
with you, Mary Jo?
So my you can go on YouTube and watch Soulful Revolution TV. That's my that I post there every day. And my website is soulfulrevolutiontv.com. You can go and look. I teach classes about mission and purpose in this life. I teach a tarot class and tarot certification if you're interested in learning. Soon to be followed by astrology, but that's such a huge undertaking. Astrology is like a billion times bigger than tarot, but they do
I can
talk to each
imagine.
other. And right, so you can go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. That's a good way to get involved, and then go to the YouTube channel and just see what calls to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, your energy with us. It's honestly been a pleasure learning from you. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanaz. It's great to see you, and I so enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Speak soon.